welcome on behalf of the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus from Trenton to you. I'm your host, New Jersey State Senator Rondell Rice, and Chairman of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. It's so good to be back in your homes again today. We have a very interesting program for you. We have a very lovely, lovely lady, a very pretty, pretty lady that you're going to get a chance to meet, who I've known for quite some time and kind of watched her grow up a little bit. In an institute that's known as the Abbott Leadership Institute in Newark. She was a product of that institute, but guess what? All you young people, what you want to know is that today she's the director of that institute with an MPA degree, and her name is Ms. Kalina Berryman. And we're so proud of her, and I know when we talk about the Abbott Leadership Institute, she's going to talk about a historian in the city of Newark, one who's been in many, many battles and our years of struggle to make Newark what it is today and to try to make life better for everyone. And that's Mr. Junius Williams. And she's going to tell you how he influenced her life. And little did we know, and little did she know, as a product over there, just going to the institute to learn like the other students were doing, that she would wind up running the organization. And unfortunately, it's a nonprofit organization. So guess what? She don't make a whole lot of money, but she loves what she's doing. So with that being said, once again, it's good to be back in your homes. I want you to pay strict attention to what the conversation is today. I want you to learn from it. I want you to have your young people, and she'll give you information to get involved with the Abbott Leadership Institute. And I want you adults to get involved. There's always something to do, volunteerism, make contributions. There's something she's going to tell you that you can do to participate, to make you feel a part of. So now we're going to turn to this lovely young lady, Ms. Kalina Berryman, and we're going to ask her, as we always do on this program, to tell us a little bit about herself, the little girl growing up, Kalina, you know, the hair that she braided, the basketball that she dunked, the scotch rope or whatever you call that stuff they used to do, the marble shooting. You know what kids did back in our generation, not hers. So Kalina, it's good to have you on the program. I want to thank you on behalf of the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus and all of our viewers, okay? And but we want you to tell us a little bit about Kalina first, okay, growing up, and then we're going to get into some Q&As and some substantive information that we know would benefit our community at large. So welcome.
Thank you. I first want to say that I am so honored to be here to sit with you. You are one of my leadership idols and mentors, and over the years, whenever you walked into a room, it felt more important. Like something really great was going to happen. Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Kaleena Berryman, and I often say that I'm a product of Newark love. Born and raised in the city, in the South Ward and West Ward, to Belinda and Herman Berryman, my amazing parents. Hi, Mom and Dad. Grew up going to Newark Public Schools and just covered with love and encouragement and a really great education. Went to Chancellor Avenue and Hawthorne Avenue, and then Arts High School, where I majored in communication. And, you know, just growing up, just being nurtured by this city and loving the people within it. And, you know, I went on to do my bachelor's degree at William Patterson University. And what led me back to Rutgers University Newark was not actually ALI. I wanted to get my master's for free because I got my bachelor's for free. So I said, okay, I need to work at a university. Where do I want to work? And I picked Rutgers University Newark, and I applied for the Abbott Leadership Institute. Now, I want to say that social justice is in my blood. My parents instilled a love for my people, a love for this work deep within me, a love for history. And when I went to William Patterson, I was president of the NAACP. I started the first African-American newspaper called Umoja. But when I came to Rutgers, I was just looking to be able to get that master's. And I was sent to the Abbott Leadership Institute and Junius Williams, and it transformed my life, gave me purpose and mission. And yes, I started as an administrative assistant, but a student of ALI in Saturday classes, learning, and just becoming more empowered, being in the room with people who have done real social justice movement work, you know, such as yourself and many others, learning from Junius Williams, just constantly soaking it in. And now to be able to lead the organization, Abbott Leadership Institute at Rutgers Newark, is a deep honor. And, you know, I'm just looking forward to progressing the work further.
You know, I always tell our viewers, and I'm going to tell them again today when we have guests on, to always listen to what the guest is telling you. And I always tell you as parents and as young people who are actually watching the program is to please do the best you can to get a good quality education.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in the vocational area, whether it's in the colleges, et cetera. And the reason it's important, because you always say you're going to do A, that's your expectations. But I always said a higher power will oftentimes have a whole different pathway for you once the good Lord help you lay the foundation.
Absolutely.
And so here's another example of a person who just trotted on down, who come from Newark to Rutgers, saying, well, I'm finally going to get some relief. I can just study and get it free. And all of a sudden, she's pulled into an Abbott Leadership Institute. And all of a sudden, whatever she wanted to be back then, she wound up not being. She wound up being the executive director of the Abbott Leadership Institute.
Yes.
You see what quality education would do for you. And I always say when you get a good quality education, I was told once when I was job seeking, when I came back from Vietnam, they would always say, well, do you have a college degree, a college degree, a college degree? And I would always say, you know, every place I go to look for a job, someone is asking me, do I have a college degree? But no one ever asked me what I learned. You know, which I thought was more important. And then I was told, I never forget, by Ruben over Miles from Disco Shoes, where I became an assistant manager and in the interview, even though I was trying for something else. He said, the reason we never ask you what you learned, because if you have a college degree or certifications, I guess would be equivalent, okay, that it tells us if you legitimately and honestly work hard to get it, it tells us you have the ability to learn.
Absolutely.
And so we don't ask you what you learn because we're going to teach you in this company what we want you to know.
Absolutely.
And I never forgot that. So what it did to me is it made me realize that it was important for my young son at the time and young daughter to make sure they get a good quality education because it was the key to getting in the door.
Absolutely.
And they're going to teach you because they recognize you have the ability to learn and you have a good foundation when it comes to all of the necessities such as reading, writing, and math, and respect and responsibility. I always throw those 2 and 3 R's.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Senator Rice, I was the first in my family to go to college. And what you're saying right now to young people is very, very important. My parents didn't have any money. You know, we didn't have any money for college. And so I planned my high school and my whole academic career to be scholarship worthy. That is a thing, being scholarship worthy. And so I did my undergraduate degree on scholarship, and I wanted to continue to move forward in that. So yes, get that education. Yes, and do your best, because it opens so many doors for you.
And see, I didn't figure out how to get everything free.
Minimal debt.
So yeah, you know, but after I struggled my first year in Howard, I was actually drafted anyway by the military. Now, when I was transitioning, I didn't want to go in the Army. I went in the Marine Corps for 4 years. So back in those days, when I came, I had good benefits. So I did get it free indirectly, but I didn't. You had a good scheme going there. You know what I mean?
I did.
So we're going to talk about the Abbott Leadership Institute. And we know something about Kalina Berryman now. You know she's a Newark product, a very proud Newark product, and one of our gyms. You know that. And as I said, she's a lovely lady. You see that peppiness, you see that smile, but you can hear the knowledge base coming out at a grassroots level. And that's the other thing about education. When we get good quality education, hopefully we learn to articulate well, we learn to write well, but we still remain ourselves. We don't speak above people. Okay? And I think that's important. So just kind of put that in your repertoire knowledge from this program, young people. So, Kalina, tell us, there are many kind of, well, we know how you got connected with the Abbott Leadership Institute, but there are many programs now in the Abbott Leadership Institute, which really were not all the programs there when Junius Williams first started. Okay? And I just want to say a little about Junius Williams because he still lives in Newark. He's a product of Richmond, Virginia, my home state, so he's my homeboy, okay? We talk all the time about it. But Junius, and I think many of you heard me talk about Junius Williams on several programs, and he's been on this program a few times too. But Junius is a Cornell graduate, University graduate. And Junius did not back in the days, because he's up in age, you know, we same generation. He did not have to really do the things he was doing, because back when Junius graduated college and went to Cornell, blacks really weren't going to Ivy League schools, was pretty much going to black colleges, which are the best colleges around from our perspective. But once in a while, someone like Junius would wind up in Ivy League school. And most of those individuals wind up going on to big corporations and big law firms. Junius, like Kaleena, decide that he's going to be the social justice person. So he landed himself in Newark. He was the first executive director of the Newark Model City program, which you young people don't know anything about, but write it down and research it. We're going to educate you too. But some of you parents remember the model cities. It was a failure throughout the country, but it was a program that really came to being because of the 1967 riots and Lyndon Baines Johnson putting together a task force to go out, known as the Kerner Commission, to identify the problem. And they thought the problem was just a bunch of radical people and clans and races fighting, and they found out that the problem really was people had reached a point that they just blew up. Poor people was getting poorer, rich was getting richer. The middle class was getting stretched to the max like a rubber band that was busting, and all kinds of discriminatory practices and abuse. And so they came back and said, we have to do something. Thus come this spending the money, trying to do the job thing and do the equity thing or the right thing to some degree, or at least fake it, okay? And so model cities kind of came out of that era. And Julius ran in Newark under the Mayor Kim Gibson, the first black mayor. And so there's a lot of experience and heart put into the Abbott Leadership Institute because grassroots and black people in particular and urban people in general was always a part of Junius Williams' thinking as it relates to being progressive and being brought up to the stage where everybody was considered to have equal rights, economic justice, and criminal justice reform types of scenarios. So Kaleena has kind of taken over that role. And when Julia started the program, it was a program. And then over a period of years and participants coming in and Rutgers support, et cetera, the program actually grew under both of their leadership to what it is today. So I wanted to kind of lay that background and foundation out there for those of you who really don't know about this. And one other thing, it was black folk who shut Rutgers down back in the day to make sure that Rutgers have a lot of minority students, minority participation. And Rutgers Newark is the reason that Rutgers is known for having one of the most diverse black populations in the country of colleges. But it's the Newark campus that makes that work. That's right. And Julia was a part of that. So history is always important as we have these conversations because too often we forget where we come from. Younger people don't know where we come from, even though we teach it. It's not important. But as I always said, when you teach young people the Jewish community, the Holocaust, they understand it, they never forget it, and they can relate to it. So we're trying to get black folk, young people in particular, to understand our history and the bits of progress we made. Who were the leaders of those progress, who sacrificed during the course of those progress, and why it's important for you to carry them on. And that's why I'm so happy to see Kaleena here, because she's carrying on things that we were doing before she was born. So Kaleena, tell us about some of those Abbott Leadership Institute programs that you have there, okay?
Yeah, that history, Senator Rice, is so important, and that's part of the reasons why I love ALI is because we make sure that whomever we are educating, whether it's parents or students, that they understand the history of the fight for civil rights and social justice, not just in this country, but in the city of Newark as well. And education is the social justice movement of today. And the mission of ALI is to increase family engagement in schools, but meaningful, informed, and effective parent engagement by way of understanding education policy and practice and making sure that parents and students show up to conversations just as prepared and with a great expertise as the leadership of schools or of a district or of a state. And so we started off with Saturday classes. We've had 17 years of Saturday classes where folks come together and learn about education policy. You know, everything is political. Education is very political. And so we want to make sure that the community is not left out of those conversations. The Abbott legislation, which is where we get our name from, began in 1981. And it really wasn't fully implemented until 1998. 21 decisions. And so when the Institute started in 2001, the goal was we have these remedies in place. We have this funding formula in place. It's supposed to provide equity for children who live in communities such as Abbott districts. Parents need to understand that policy. They need to be able to hold schools and the state accountable to implement what Abbott promised. And that's how we got our start. We started with about 17 folks. Mr. Williams always says 17 people in the 25 people in the Cornwall Center at Rutgers University Newark. Thankfully, they allowed ALI to grow there. And now our classes sometimes have up to 100 people. And they're not being paid to come. We just provide knowledge, and knowledge is power. Yes. And I am steadfast in believing and saying that I think it's ALI that kept us together through state control, because we have been around this whole time and we have been keeping people with their eyes on the prize for all of those years. And now that we have local control, our parents are showing up ready to go, and our students are too. So 17 years of ALI, 13 years ago, we developed the Youth Media Symposium. And that is a program to teach education advocacy to young people, but with the media as a tool for social change and for getting their message out. So that's 13 years old. So now we have young people who, where, you know, the gap starts to close. It's like, we can hang out together, you know? And we've just seen so many of our YMS graduates thrive. And our center currently, our YMS program is currently, our program manager is Jennifer Mate. She's here with us over there. She is our manager. And she's amazing, and she's a product of the program and a product of the city. The young people in 2015 decided that they wanted to take on college access, and they came up with a plan for college success centers, and they got a $100,000 grant. And so young people now run the college success centers. They serve about 200 young people a year. There's one housed at Rutgers University Newark and one at Malcolm X Shabazz High School. We also have our Parents Empower Social and Emotional Learning program with the Newark Trust for Education, which has graduated about 125 parents in the last 2 years. And lastly, our Newark Leaders of Health program, which we had young people recently complete an IRB-approved research study on chronic absenteeism. They testified before the Joint Committee on Public Schools, and they wrote a book. And so the findings of their study and the release of their book will be early 2020. All of this work is grounded in justice. All of it is grounded in equity. And it's to ensure that we have not just a seat at the table, but that we pull the table together ourselves and we invite the people around. Because the parents and the students, you know, we're the ones, and I'm a parent. A parent of a young child with special needs. We live in Jersey City, and I just had to help fight to keep his school open. You know, so I'm able to employ those same strategies. So yeah, it's 17 years of amazing work that could not be possible without Rutgers Newark just being on this journey with us, and also people like you who continue to champion for us. So thank you.
And thank you too for the work you're doing. And you just said so many amazing things about so many programs that are just not programs. They're programs that's bearing fruit, real fruit. Absolutely. And it's interesting because it's young students that's actually creating the program, generating the concepts for the programs, and actually doing the research along with it to get it done. I think that's important. But I think it's also important for our viewers to remember, because I'm sure that pretty much most people know about the fact that what Kaleena was saying is that the Newark public school system was taken over around 1995. And only up until recently did the city of Newark have an opportunity to run its own educational system again without total state control and interference. But it was also Patterson and Jersey City. Camden is still a takeover district. And all this stuff is really political, contrary to what people say.
Absolutely.
They will come in and say to us, for example, that, look, you have a problem here, we say, yes, we know. and we're going to fix it for you. And the way they fix things, they said, we're going to throw everybody out and put all our people in and suck all the money out your system and build charter schools and give all our friends money, et cetera, et cetera. Where was the Abbott Leadership Institute working with the unions and the superintendent of schools, people like Marion Bolden and others at the time, and those of us in the legislature and local government, our now mayor and at the time principal, Raz Baraka and councilman, and many of our colleagues that for years we thought the day would never come, but we never gave up to fight for taxpayers and voters in Patterson and Jersey City and Newark to get their rights back to run their own public school districts.
Absolutely.
Now we have to make it work. We know how to do it. And the state never came in and say, what can we do to help you fix it, help you build capacity? They came in basically and said, we're just going to take the resources away, and we have an excuse to come in there so that we can deceive the public as to what we're really doing. And so I really want to commend the Institute for that, because they were on point. You know, Kalina, there's something very interesting happening, because if you remember when Junius was there, I pulled together about 22 black elected officials and white elected officials and Latino elected officials, state officials, county officials, local government officials, community leaders, superintendents of schools, and we all went down to Washington, D.C., complained about Cammie Anderson, the state takeover superintendent. We complained about what we call the pink hula hoop and how they was taking taxpayers' buildings and assets and dollars, and we asked them to take a look at it, and Ani Duncan, the Secretary of Education, would never look at that. We called for federal investigations. We could never get them. I asked the state Senate president to give me subpoena power for the Joint Committee on the Public Schools. We really never got that. I said we should never approve Christopher Surf. I went before the board along with others, Julius and everybody else, to say, look, you're in violation of your own responsibilities as it relates to a state board, okay? Then we asked for the state attorney general to do an investigation on EDA funding to the Pink Hula Hoop people and Team Academy. Then we asked Chris Christie to do it. None of it ever happened. And believe it or not, you may be aware of this, you may not. Only a couple of days ago, I found out that the FBI is investigating the charter schools, the charter school movement, how there's massive fraud throughout the country, not just here, with the kinds of things that they are doing, and how they are setting up these organizations, et cetera, profit versus nonprofits, but actually taking taxpayers' assets and using government money to purchase it and then turn it over to private sources. I never thought that day would come. But once again, had it not been for the Abbott Leadership Institute bringing waves and waves of new leadership through, and some of those students in Abbott Leadership really started as students in the movement to get local control back. And so that is a history to this institute that you need to be familiar with. And I'm gonna be doing this in and off because Kalina's here, and I have to give history because
I'm loving it.
Because it's important as we go through this phase, because we don't get a chance to do this much. People don't even know much. If you ask the average person what is the Abbott Leadership Institute, they'll tell you I don't know. But you need to know, because really it's a historical institution, okay? It's an institute rather, and it's an institute that's actually accomplished something. Many things. Raising and growing people, but also movement success, okay? So, Kalina, talk a little bit about working with Junius. And some of the kinds of things, because he's retired now. And, you know, how has this informed and helped develop and mold your approach and your leadership role to what you're doing with the Abbott Institute, Leadership Institute now?
Everything I know, and Junius Williams is an organizer. That is his forte. That is his role. But not just an organizer for big things. If you look at the medical school fight and negotiating that, an organizer who understands. He calls it the power of the something with the people in the streets. You know, bringing those things together. He knows how to do that so well. And so, for the 13 years that I was with him, I studied, and what I think most influenced me is his love for our people, his love for the people, his love for young people. And if you keep the love for our people and an understanding of your history, you cannot make decisions about education, about schools, about young people, about anything that affects people of color without understanding your history. And so a lot of younger people, because I'm not that young, but a lot of younger people do not value the brilliance of our elders. But our elders were able to win battles that we have not been able to compare to. The Civil Rights Act and just the movements of the 60s and 70s that were monumental. Right now, we can barely get these little things accomplished that we need to do because we're not studying the elders in that strategy. And so, I learned how to love my people authentically and out loud, and how to run programming that puts people at the forefront. You said grassroots, that's what it is. Everything is, it's not bottom, because I believe that people are the top. So it's top, and then we all up here, and so that's what I've learned. And I'm glad that he wrote his book, Unfinished Agenda. It's a very good blueprint for people who want to become advocates. He's the Newark historian. He developed, the book, the website, The North, which is all of our history, our local history in one website. It should be everywhere. I'm not just saying that because he used to be my boss, but he's really one of the most brilliant people that this country has. And ALI, as you said, you have to know the history to really appreciate it. It's not just leadership development, but it's really developing people who can advance justice.
That's right.
And not just as a part of movements, but in every space they occupy. Our young people and our parents are always challenging things that are not just.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So that's what I've learned, and I just talked to him yesterday. He's still calling and still helping me.
Well, I reached out for him about 3 weeks ago because, as you know, and public knows, some of the public, what Junius started was a part of when the University of Medicine and Dentistry, which is now University Hospital, a lot of properties was taken. As you said, Junius negotiated a lot of deals to make sure that we benefited because we were harmed in the process, which includes the medical school and everything else. Well, we still are going through trials and tribulations, but we have a new president and CEO over there now, and that's Dr. Hall, who was actually the commissioner brought in under the Murphy administration to be the Commissioner of Health. So he was overseeing the institution, understanding all the problems, understanding the history or how we got to where we are with the problems, and he was overseeing as commissioner the whole concepts that were coming in, all the concepts as to how to fix the problems. Well, we was fortunate because when we were looking for a new president, and everybody was applying, the commissioner kept looking and said, wait a minute, there's a challenge over there. and I'm the commissioner.
Absolutely.
I have to oversee the challenge. So rather than overseeing the challenge, why don't I just go fix the thing,
Absolutely, yes.
And so we have a person that's really committed. And one of the things I did, and the reason I'm bringing this up based on what you're saying, you spoke to Junius the other day, I reached out about 3 weeks ago, because I had not talked to my homeboy in maybe a couple of months, and I said, Junius, I really need you to sit down with the new CEO and give him the history of UMDNJ, University Hospital, and the history when it was called Marlin, and the history of how it got to where it is today, but more importantly, the new president understand. He's read the Newark agreements and he understands the relationship, but he don't understand the total history.
Right.
I want you to educate him.
That is
Julie
wonderful.
Just pick the phone up and say, it is done, And so they're connected. I also called Charlie Bell out to woodwork. And Lawrence Ham. And they came to the table along with George Hampton, who was the VP.
You got all the
big
hitters out there.
And so we have a lot of history here. People, you all say, who are these folks? Well, these are people that made your life a lot better, and you don't even know it. They don't want credit for it, and that's what we do, And so that's good to know. But Kalina, now under Junius was moving programs, he's moving direction, and you've come to build on that. So can you kind of talk about what is different under you, if anything, in terms of the direction you're moving in, and presently and in the future.
Yeah.
And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so a few things. One is I want to spend more time, I want to meet the people where they are. So I want to be able to spend more time in schools, in community, and finding parents and young people who maybe have not thought about education in this way and have not really realized their power. Because that is really the essence of this work. You are powerful. You can accomplish anything. When they told us that my son's school in Jersey City might shut down, I told the parents, no, it's not. It's not going to shut down. We're going to stop that. And now we have a 5-year contract in the works for it to continue. And I want ALI to continue to find people where they are so we can get some new parent advocates. We need more parents engaged, but we have to start with just knowing how to navigate the politics of your school building or of your child's classroom. So I want to spend a lot more time in schools. Also, I want to make sure that our parents are informing policy, our parents and our young people. So I want to spend more time working with leaders such as yourself in making sure that we are changing the way things are done across the city and across the state. So we don't have to keep fighting the same battles. Every social justice win we've had as people of color has been because policy or law was changed. And so one of the things that we talked about at the last Joint Committee on Public School was creating some policies around parent engagement, some standards at the state level so that we don't have to have schools that are so unequal in how they deal with parents. And the third thing is I want to just connect ALI deeper to a lot of the anchor work that Rutgers University Newark is doing. Right now, and I think more residents of the city need to understand, right now, if you are a senior in high school, you can apply to Rutgers University Newark, and if you meet the qualifications, you can graduate. If you're accepted into most of their programs, you can graduate with minimal debt. And it's not based on merit, it's based on residence. It's an investment in Newark's young people. We have the Honors Living Learning Community. We have the Shabazz Partnership. We have the Cornwall Center doing work. And so I want to make sure that that history that you're talking about.
Yes.
And my just really deep love for our people and understanding of our people and what matters to them, and that our people benefit, the people of this city benefit from the amazing opportunity that is being developed by Rutgers University Newark under the leadership of Chancellor Cantor. I'm excited about it. Before we had all these programs, I didn't necessarily tell all of our young people that they should consider. But if a university is laying out a justice carpet for you, we want more of our families and our young people to take advantage of that. So those are the three things: being more with people who need us the most, who need to be empowered the most, getting deeper into policy work at the district and the state level, and lastly, to just be more a part of what the university is doing and connect it more to the community and make sure that folks know.
You know, and it's so important what you're saying. We have mentioned that name, and head on the program, it's time we bring her back. Dr. Chancellor, Dr. Cantor. She is such an amazing woman for Rutgers. And when we did the mergers, there was a big battle about merging. And as I said to many of you viewers before, that the Lieutenant Governor was Speaker Oliver at the time. In the Assembly, she was the Speaker. We fought back because we couldn't stop the merger, but we tried to make it better. Out of that came this whole idea and concept that we would have our own chancellor, because the chancellor was situated at New Brunswick, and then, you know, they have their chancellor there, and then Camden have a chancellor. And I have to say, we have the most amazing chancellor. And what I understood was that she was chancellor at Syracuse University, and she brought her philosophy here, but she didn't really want to come here. And there was some convincing being done, you know, by Dr. Price and others, that you need to come here. And she saw the challenge, she took it. And the reason we fell in love with her is what you're saying, is when she talked to us in the legislature and in the community, she said, look, I want to grow the institution. I want to do things for folk who think they can't go to college, who don't have the money. But I don't want to grow a college campus. I want to help rehabilitate the communities around the academic arena.
In Newark,
and so
Newark.
That's right. So all of a sudden, we have a chancellor that just sounds like she came from some strange land someplace, talking about helping people fix their homes rather than moving them out, buying the homes to build a campus.
Yeah.
Talking about getting the young people who may not be doing as well as other academically, still getting them in college, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Talking about actually paying for it. Talking about investing in downtown projects. Talking about bringing jazz music back to the town, not just the college campus, but for people to actually go and listen to jazz, okay? And so Rutgers has come a long way. Rutgers Newark, Rutgers New Brunswick still have a long way to go from my perspective. So we ain't gonna talk about the sports team, but we're going to talk about the good things here.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that the Abbott Leadership Institute do stay committed and bonded with the chancellor, because, you know, we come and go, but between Abbott Leadership Institute and chancellor, you're really putting a foundation in place that's going to really be solid after all of us are gone. They'll never let these things go. They will have to build on them. I know you're also involved with one of our favorite people who we had on the show a few times, and we talk about, we love to death, and that's Dr. Diane Hill from Rutgers, who's doing all the community stuff with the Fairmont projects and other kinds of things. And so this information today that you're listening to, this is powerful stuff. You never heard this before in most cases, so I want you to really absorb it and share it as you view the program, et cetera. So I know that you do a lot of things, but let's talk about the youth leadership again. How are you growing this leadership? Talk more about the youth leadership programs and stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, we have the Youth Media Symposium, which is 13 years old, and our young people over the years have, excuse me, produced documentaries about topics around education reform. They have launched campaigns such as Student Voice Matters, which says that young people need to be at the table in the city, and I believe that the city has responded. They are civically engaged, and I think of all the outcomes of our young people, that's the most important. Our young people vote. When they become parents, they are dynamic parents. They are in those schools making sure that their kids are getting the best education possible. And they are leaders. Jennifer is a part of an organization called Girls on Bikes. We have Monica Hall, who has an organization called School. So they create organizations for themselves to continue the work in other places. And so YMS has just produced so many great young people. And through that, with a partnership with the city's Office of Youth and College Affairs, we have the Newark Leaders of Health. And so YMS was more education focused. Newark Leaders of Health is about health advocacy. And they decided to take on chronic absenteeism and adverse childhood experiences, telling us, you know, those of us who are now talking about those buzzwords, trauma and ACEs, well, what does it really mean for a young person who shows up to school? You know, why are we absent? Why are we not coming? And through their research, which will be released soon, they realized that a lot of it was mental health. You know, our young people are dealing with a lot. And when it comes down to it, what excites me about the now is we are doing our part at ALI to make sure that our schools are producing the kind of young people who are ready to take advantage of the new Newark, because Newark is changing, it's shifting. And there are so many opportunities here. And so we want to make sure that we have young people who are graduating from high school, entering their post-secondary plans, and can become homeowners and entrepreneurs and leaders within the city. And, you know, thankfully, the work of entities at Rutgers Newark, such as the Newark City of Learning Collaborative and the Honors Living Learning Community, we're able to go from high school to get them to Rutgers Newark or their post-secondary plan, and then continue to grow in these other outlets. The Newark College Institute is another one. So it's really a perfect opportunity and a perfect time to just transform the lives of people. You know, when we talk about changing generations, this is where it's happening.
So let me ask you a question with the young people, because I'm always interested in everybody, but young people and seniors are my hearts, okay? 'Cause I know that the seniors are paved the way, and they need to just relax, and we need to protect them, and young people need to protect it so they can grow up and be young adults that live a good quality of life, good healthy minds, okay? So are the good things that they are doing, are those things online someplace if other young people want to look at them, parents want to see what it is, et cetera? So is there, what do they look for?
Absolutely. So I would say the best thing to do is to follow us on social media. If you're on Facebook or on Instagram, We have the Youth Media Symposium, Facebook and Instagram. We have the Abbott Leadership Institute, Facebook and Instagram. We also have our website, www.abbottleadership.org, which is being updated. But the social media is very active. And also, you can reach me by email if you'd like to be a part of our email list. My email address is Kaleena B, KALEENAB @rutgers.edu. If you want to know what's happening at ALI and in the community, because we try to make sure that people are informed about all of the different opportunities that exist, just reach out and we will get you connected.
So I know that the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus website really need to be updated because my staff has kind of let it fall apart on me. and I'm going to get on them about that because that's important to our members.
Yeah.
But I think that, and we'll have some off-camera conversation, maybe with Mark. I think we need to see how do we get the Abbott Leadership Institute onto our website.
That would be
because
great.
we have organizations such as NAACP at a button, you can go right to their website.
Oh, that's great.
But how do we get information? How do we feed information so it can be shared throughout?
Yeah.
So that's one thing we'll talk about. Hopefully, if Mark is listening, because he takes care of our tech stuff inside.
Mark?
If can make a note. Yeah, Mark.
Make it happen,
okay.
Mark.
And also I want to put something in your head that we need to talk about again off. I really believe that we're at a point now where my brother, the person who really brought a lot of people along, who's done so much here in the city of Newark, that we love to death, even his harmonica that he plays and sings, okay, and his blues.
Yeah.
I really believe that we need to have a conversation with Rutgers. I really believe it's time that the Abbott Leadership Institute be given the name of the Junius Williams Abbott Leadership Institute.
Wow.
The founder. Why he can see the flowers, and he can see the growth, and we can bring some of the alumni back and folk that he can just share some tears over, recognizing that he's changed and transformed real people's lives, okay?
Absolutely.
And made them leaders, not just transformed, they're leaders in their own rights, regardless of where they are.
Absolutely.
And so I hope that my staff would take notes on that to remind me to talk to Chancellor. I'll give Marsha Brown a call, and the board can do what they want to do, and people can get mad, and we'll let them know that we don't want to go back and do a Conklin Hall thing to get this done. This should be an easy lift, right?
It should be an easy lift. Rutgers loves Mr. Williams, so it shouldn't be a problem.
And so we need to do that. Also, I know that we are transitioning back Newark in our capacity, and other cities too, Paris and Jersey City, that my members represent, are now under what we call local control, where the public school system, the Board of Education members can make decisions, hire, fire, and stuff like that, policy. But I know that the Abbott Leadership Institute has always been close and bonded to the public school system and the things we are doing. I suspect you're going to be playing, if you're not already, a very intricate role in helping us get through this local control piece.
Yes.
So that we have total control, but also make sure that education, unlike the past, 20 years plus, really start to work significantly and substantially for our children, particularly children of color in this city, et cetera. Talk about that relationship.
Absolutely. This is a beautiful time for me because over the years in ALI classes, we've talked about what's happening locally, nationally, and a vision for the schools in this city was created. And the knowledge in order to advocate for that vision has held strong. And Superintendent Leon has absolutely come to ALI to utilize our parents and young people to move this 10-year strategic plan forward. So the Abbott Leadership Institute co-hosts the Youth Roundtable for the city. There are different roundtables to develop this 10-year plan. And ALI is the community partner for the Youth Roundtables. Our parents are all up in the parent roundtables, and our partners are also a part of the other work, and they are listening. The superintendent is listening to us and listening to the community. And I think he had a lot of the same vision for what justice looks like today for young people. And to make sure that young people can go through K through 12 and graduate ready to take on whatever it is that they plan for themselves. And so we are absolutely a part of that. We have a meeting with the superintendent tomorrow, it's a beautiful time. You know, all that learning we've done in ALI Saturday classes, we're finally able to put it to use. Okay. And that's the great part, is when we get to those roundtable discussions, we are ready to go. You know, there's no new learning. You're always learning, but there's no hesitation about the vision that we have for Newark Public Schools.
So I'm going to take the liberty and see if I can convince, I'm going to tell him that he has to do it. And then I'm going to see if I can convince him to do it, because he may give me some pushback. But I think I'm going to try to connect Mark to you and the Leadership Institute from my office.
Okay.
You know, Mark has his MPA and stuff like that. But the reason I want to do that is because I want to have someone that can maybe have dialogue with you after I'm talking about some of the things I think that the Abbott Leadership Institute may want to take a look at, and maybe some of the students and the public school system will be willing to build around, okay? Because I always have ideas and things like that. Okay. You know, and I know that the Legislative Black Caucus is starting to put together a mentee program for some of our college students.
Oh,
and
awesome.
We just graduated 4 or 5 from that. But we're talking about putting together now our own leadership program to grow leaders, and I can see kind of a marriage there, as well as taking advantage of our legislative office and the things that we can do in terms of promulgating legislation. I think that's important. And so hopefully Mark is listening and taking note on that. Hopefully your energy here, because he is watching, is it giving him encouragement?
Yes.
Okay, to want to be involved, because he's looking for good things to do. And I know he's a no-nonsense person. Okay. I figured that much out about him, okay? Yeah. He want to be involved, but not with a bunch of, he don't have time for nonsense, okay?
Yeah, no, we're doing strong work here.
And this is strong work that you're doing. I also want to, because I know we only have about 8 or 9 minutes left. I think it's very important that we have some discussion, because I have bills going through to deal with dropout rates and things like that. But you know, on the joint committee, you came down, you were kind enough to bring some students down so we could hear directly from students about why students are dropping out of schools and what can we do to keep them in. We have conversations. We know, for example, I've always been angry and adamant with the school system when a young person show up at school late and you don't let them in. I said, well, we have to figure out why they're late, but let them in, because at least they came. The other ones that was hanging out with them never came into school, okay? Whether in all. Talk about the students as it relate to the absenteeism and the role that they are playing in that, and information that they're having. And also the planning process that you have with the Newark Public Schools as a relationship with the parents going through the next 10 years or so. Okay.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you brought up the lateness, because the young people, they spent the summer of 2018 developing a research study, a Rutgers University approved research study, a group of high school and college young people. And they had to go through the entire process. They had to develop this study and make sure that it was fair and it made sense. And they got IRB approval. And so they surveyed about 150 young people across the city about why they were chronically absent. And a large amount of young people, there were 2 things that were glaring. We're still finalizing the report. But one thing was that young people's mental health was an issue. Mental health was a big issue. You wake up and you don't feel like going to school. And when I was going to school, I never didn't feel like going to school. School was amazing. But I understand that I came from a stable home with very loving parents, with a mom who was a stay-at-home mom. And I recall sometimes us having struggles, but I was protected from them. But a lot of our young people then and now are not protected from those struggles, and they are carrying a lot. And so that was one thing. The good news is that the district has been moving in that direction as well, and there is this new grant that the district has been awarded to deal with the mental health of young people. The second thing was that we are counting lateness with absences. So I think 3 lates equals an absence. And if you are not looking at late separate from absence, you're having the wrong conversation. So one of their initial recommendations was that they be counted separately. Is the issue really that young people are absent from school, or is it that young people are habitually late from school? And if it is a lateness issue, that is something different, and the message should be different. So one of the things that they proposed, and that we hope, your office will consider, is looking at that, how we calculate absences and making sure that we're having the right conversations. Yes, young people are absent, but also a lot of young people are late. And so, what does that look like?
So first of all, you tell those young people they owe me some information.
Yes.
Remember, I said go back and tell me what you recommend.
They do.
Us to the legislation on.
Yes.
That's why I'm gonna connect Mark to you guys,
Yes.
so I can stay on top of my stuff, because I forgot too. We're supposed to do legislation saying
Yes.
you can't count lateness.
Absolutely.
And absence is the same thing.
Yes.
And we're gonna do more research on that.
Yeah.
Because we have a great commissioner of education and Dr. Ropalet who really gets this stuff.
Yeah.
And if we can fix things and young people have the input in fixing it, he's going to get it done.
Yeah.
I know that, okay? And the joint committee members are very much committed too, that I co-chair along with Senator Ben Wimberly from Patterson District, et cetera. But now let's talk about parents.
Yes.
Because when you testified before the joint committee on public schools, there was testimony given about parents' engagement,
Yes.
something we talk about for years,
Yes.
and parents don't get it. And I know that it's important and you're doing things with it. I just want to say to the parents, let me say this to you. I can say this because I never care who get angry with me for saying the right things, and I never worry about who vote for me for saying the right things. And maybe that's why I've been around so long, okay, because some people don't like it, but they understand and they know truth. There's no excuse for not engaging yourself with the kids. Parents would say, well, I work 2 jobs. Fine, okay? You can still get engaged some kind of way. It may take 5 minutes, maybe 10. Just a way of doing that with the school system. What always offended me in the urban districts is that the superintendents would tell the parents that we need you to come to the PTA meetings, and you don't show up. But yet they'll put a charter school down the street, and you're telling me, especially when I was on council, well, Mr. Rice, Councilman, I don't want to go to that school because the crime down there and all the problems that going to get to the school in the area. And I said, well, okay, but we can't change anything because that's all over the place. Well, I'm not sending my kids there. I'm not going to transfer them to Westside High School. And then all of a sudden, a new school comes across the street from Westside called a charter school. And all of a sudden, you're rushing down there, fighting and beating up on people to get your kid registered in some school that's ripping us off, taking away the school. And I come and say, hold it. You just told me you didn't want your kids going in that community because of the problem. Well, that's a new school. I said, that's a shame, because what happens is in the new school called charter, they tell you if you're going to be here, then every Wednesday you have to come here to do this. You show up. But yet, in the traditional public school, when the superintendent said be here for the PTA, you make an excuse not to go. That's a parental responsibility. And when we say parents' engagement, we know there are reasons that some parents don't want to be engaged, but some parents don't want to be engaged because of things happen at the school system. We're going to talk about that. Other parents don't want to be engaged because you just don't want to be engaged. But if you think somebody is giving you something, you want to jump on top of it. Charter schools, I'm saying this, is not the way to go. And if you research it, they're failing our kids. In the meanwhile, they're sucking resources out the public school system, where 90% of our student population is going to always go, regardless of whatever kind of systems you put in place, and you are not there to engage and help those schools grow. That's why we're so grateful for the Abbott Leadership Institute, because we know that Kalina is going to be there for you whether you want to be there or not. And guess what? Your kid's going to be there.
And no matter where your children go to school, because here's the thing. Here's what I think has caused that. So in the 60s, and even before that, it was very clear what civil rights needed to be, what fights we needed to have. It was very clear. And we had leaders who were very clear, and we had those wins. But over time, we've become a bit complacent. And the reason why ALI is so important is because we set the foundation within parents and young people that you can change things. And so if you show up to a school and it is not meeting your child's needs, and there's an option that you feel might meet their needs better, if you don't believe that you can change things, then you're going to go to that other option. And that's okay. We cannot fault parents for that. Our job, those of us who understand that a city is only as strong as its public school system, period. You know, it is critical that we have excellent schools for all children, because that is the civil rights movement of today.
Yes.
We have to do the work to plant that seed of power within parents and young people. We have to go to them, look them in the eye, and say, you can change things. You can change things.
And you can. And we're telling you that. We're wrapping up now, but I want to get this in real quickly. Kaleena, please tell the viewers, I want you to get paper and pencil, or get your little notepads on your IT stuff or your geeky ones, okay? But write this information down. How do the viewers get in touch with the Abbott Leadership Institute?
Absolutely.
To get involved and to find more information?
So Abbott Leadership Institute will be rolling out our new Saturday class series. We have our Parents Empowered Building Your SEL series with the Newark Trust for Education. We have our Youth Media Symposium. We have our Newark Leaders of Health. We have our college success centers that are helping young people through the college process. We're also part of the Newark City Learning Collaborative FAFSA Challenge. We have so much going on, and we want to keep you informed. So here's what you need to do. One, if you are on social media, let me tell you, it's great for status updates and keeping in touch with family and friends, but it is awesome when it comes to information. Follow us, Abbott Leadership Institute, Youth Media Symposium, or you can call us 973-353-3520. That is my number. I will call you back. So we hope to see you in one of our many spaces very, very soon. And thank you so much, Senator Rice, for having us today. And I look forward to much progress.
Let me thank you on behalf of the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus from Trenton to you. Thank our guest for being on, Kalina Berryman, and the work that she's doing, and thank our viewers for tuning in. Share this information. Knowledge is powerful. Have a good day.
Power to the people.